There was a person who was walking along the street, and all of a sudden he sees a $100 bill floating down in front of him. And he looks, this is very interesting, money floating from the sky, and he picks it up, it's a real $100 bill. He keeps walking a few more steps, and he sees another $100 bill floating down, and he's looking at what is going on over here. This is unbelievable. There's money coming down from Shemayim. So he looks up, and he sees there's a marpeset, there's a balcony. And on this little balcony that's coming out of the person's apartment is a young child, a 3-year-old child. And the 3-year-old child has taken the father's wallet. The father doesn't know. And he's got the wallet, and he's having a great time. He's got this wallet, and he's slowly, one by one, taking everything out of the wallet, and he's dropping it down this hole in between the marpeset, in between the balcony over there. And this kid is having a great time. And this person walking on the street is looking in amazement to see what's going on. When is the parent going to realize what the child is doing? And he waits a few moments, and then all of a sudden, the father, you see, peeks out of the window and starts screaming at the child, saying, "What are you doing? Give me my wallet back. What have you done?" And he schleps him inside. And the fellow realized to himself the following. This 3-year-old child, a 3-year-old child that did this, he took a wallet, he took $100 bills. What does he know? He has no idea what's a $100 bill. He doesn't know what the worth is. He doesn't know what damage he's doing. No idea. And it struck a chord, because when a person doesn't realize with what he's dealing with, when a person doesn't realize the chashivas of something, then you don't treat it with the correct respect. You don't treat it properly. We're holding in a situation of Sefirat Omer. Every night we count the Omer. And there's a lesson. And there's a message to every single one of us. And if this time would go by without learning the message, it would be a tremendous shame. Because there's an opportunity, there's a golden opportunity to grow, to become a better person. If this period of time would go by without us taking that chashivas, would be no different to the 3-year-old child that takes the $100 and just throws them down onto the street, because we don't appreciate what we have. We know, Chazaq tell us that when we left Mitzrayim, Klal Yisrael were holding on the lowest madrega possible, almost to the point of no return. There was almost no difference, Chazaq tell us, between a Jew and a Goy. It was terrible. Klal Yisrael were holding at such a low madrega, such a low level when they came out of Mitzrayim. At that point, they had to be taken out in order to continue to grow and to eventually reach Kabbalah Satoya. And exactly that happened, because they came out of Mitzrayim at the low level that they had, and they went in 7 weeks, and they went to accept the Torah at Har Sinai from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Chazal tell us at the moment of Har Sinai, when the Klal Yisrael were given the Torah by Hashem, it wasn't just stam. They were given it, they had the level of a Novi. Klal Yisrael all of a sudden had the level of a prophet. It was unbelievable. We're talking about people over here that were on the lowest level of anything, the lowest level possible. And in 7 weeks, they got to the level of reaching a prophet, a Novi. Chazal tell us that they saw the thunder. Chazal tell us they heard Anoichi Hashem from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, whatever that means. But we're talking about a high level. How is it humanly possible for a person to go on a level that's so low, and in such a short period of time, in 7 weeks, to go all the way up high? And something which can take a regular person a lifetime of work, in 7 weeks, it was given to them. The answer is, it was given to them as a matana. It was a present. It's impossible for a person to reach that level from such a low level without being given to it as a matana. It's a present. And that's exactly what happened. Klal Yisrael were on such a low level, the only way to bring them up, the only way to give them the Torah in such a tremendous, tremendous Kiddush Hashem, is to give them the matana of becoming such high people. And that's how they got there. It means to us the following. We're holding in a time between Pesach and Shavuos, where there is a very special siyata d'shmaya, heavenly help, that a person can work on himself, and the effect of working on yourself now is a lot more than any other time of the year. That means right now you have the opportunity to work on yourself, to become a better person as each day goes by. And the effect can be unbelievable. And it goes further. There's another question. How can it be that a Jewish people, right, the nation of Israel, Klal Yisrael, had reached a level of a novi, of a prophet, and yet, all of a sudden, Avodah Zarah, Egel Azov, they worshipped the golden calf? How is that possible? How do we have people that reach such a high level but yet can sink so low once again? And the answer is easy come, easy go. If you don't work at it, if you don't work on yourself, it just doesn't go. It's not internalized. It's not real. And therefore, Klal Yisrael lost it for that moment when they saw there was a sofek, I don't know, Moshe Rabbeinu's not here anymore. What's going to be? Egel Azov, Avodah Zarah. The lesson over here is a tremendous lesson. And that is that we have a period of time, at this moment of time, that we are in, Sefirat Omer, this month between Pesach and Shavuos, and we have to work on it. We have to do something. Because this is the time that can affect us in a tremendous way. We know there are certain halachas, right? There are certain things that we keep, avelos, we don't maybe make a chasana, we don't cut our hair, all sorts of things. Why do we do this? So we know that this period of time between Pesach and Shavuos is the time that the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died. 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva were nifta between Pesach and Shavuos. And because of that, we have to keep certain halachas of avelos. The Gemara tells us why. What's the reason? 24,000 Talmidim. And by the way, these are not stam Talmidim. These are not yeshiva bachrim. We're dealing with gedolei olam. We're dealing with Talmidei chachomim. The Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva were geoinim. These people were so special. And why did they die? Shaloi nagu kavod zeh lo zeh. They didn't treat each other with respect. I mean, all right, okay, it's so bad. Is it so bad that 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, the biggest Gedolim, the passing over to Klal Yisrael, generation to generation, was from them? And the Chazal tell us it almost stopped. There was almost no continuation of the Torah to Klal Yisrael. Why? It goes even further. The Gemara wants to know, what death did they have? How did it work? What happened? So the Gemara says very simple. It's a death called aschara. Aschara is a type of choking, which Chazal tell us is the worst possible death that a person can experience. You can't breathe, you can't... It's terrible. It's terrible. But it happened for a reason. That means this is the time that we have to realize and take that lesson to heart. That these people that were given this death were given it for a reason. And we have to understand it, we have to live it, we have to work on it. That's our avodah at this moment of time. The reason that the Sforim bring down why they were punished in such a terrible way is because a person has to realize a very important thing. Torah is the most important thing that we have. Torah gives a life to a person. Chiyas, it gives life to someone. The person cannot live without Torah. It's impossible. But if a person just learns Torah, and you have many people out there that they know a lot of Torah, but when it comes to respect for other people, when it comes to respect for their fellow Jew, when it comes to treating someone else with kavod, so that's a little bit shaky. And the Torah is saying, no, it's impossible. Torah is not a book that you just open, you learn, and you close it. That's not how it is. Torah is a way of life. It's a way of living. It's becoming something better. It's improving yourself. Torah is meant to make a person live a better life. And if a person just learns the Torah as a nice, knowledgeable idea or knowledgeable limud, he's not getting anything. That's not Torah. Torah has to be in a way that you're treating other people with respect, that you're becoming a better person. And that's the reason why the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, who are obviously on such a high level, were judged on a higher level than anybody else, obviously because they were holding on a higher level. But it's because of that, because they were the future of giving over Torah to Klal Yisrael. When a person is in the situation, in the position of giving over Torah to Klal Yisrael, he's got to be perfect. His respect to other people has to be unbelievable. And therefore, because they lacked this idea of Shaloi Nogu Kovod Zeh Lezeh, which again, according to them, Madrega, maybe we would have looked at it as something small, but for them it was unbelievable. they were punished in such a way. The Chidush Harim, one of the Ger Rebbes, said a wonderful thing. It's an obvious question. Sefirat Omer, right? What do? We count every single day. How many days was it from Pesach? Really, it should be the other way around. Imagine, right? I teach Chasanim before the Chasana. So the Chasan tells me that now you can get this special clock that you press, you set the date of when the wedding is, you press start, and then the time starts clicking and goes and goes and goes and goes. Like, you've got exactly, 423 hours and 200 minutes and how many seconds you've got left till the moment of the chuppah. Unbelievable, right? It's a scary thought to see life ticking away slowly and slowly and slowly. But you count down. Baruch Hu in yeshiva, that's what they do. You have a calendar on the wall. How many days are we going back? You ask them, what are you going back for? I don't know, I just need to go back. Bagels and lax. I don't know exactly what's going on. But they're excited to go back, right? What are they excited about? You count down to something. Here by Sefirat Omer, what are we doing? We're showing our anticipation for Kabbalas HaTorah. Shavuos is coming up. We're going to receive the Torah. So shouldn't we do it the other way around? Why don't we count the other way around? There's 24 days. There's 23 days left. There's 22 days left. 20 days left. 19 days. The excitement should build up. Why is it the other way around? Why are we counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on? Says the Chidush Harim, one of the Ger Rebbes, an unbelievable thing. He says because what we're counting over here, of course, we're showing our anticipation, our excitement for Kabbalas HaTorah, excited that Shavuos is coming, we're going to get the Torah again. But it's more than that. It's what we're meant to be doing, and this is something really when we count the Omer every single night after Mariv, we have to have this in mind. We're counting what have we done today? What have we achieved today? How much of a better person are we today than yesterday? And if the answer is not much, then we're not taking the lesson to heart. If we're not becoming a better person, and we're not learning from the lesson of the Gemara of Chazal, what are we counting Sefirat Omer for anyway? We know Chazal tell us that the korban, the offering that was brought by Pesach was animal food. The offering that was brought on Shavuos is human food, sa'urim, chitim, right? So what's a person meant to do? A person is meant to work for becoming an animal characteristic sort of person to a human person. An animal can eat somebody else alive. An animal will take another animal if he's hungry in order to survive. I'll eat them alive because he has to survive. A human being, unfortunately, can do the same thing. The power that a human being has is he can eat another human being alive, theoretically, because he can say the wrong thing, he can do the wrong thing, he can act the wrong way. He can do all sorts of things that will literally eat somebody else alive. That's an animal thing to do, to worry about yourself and not anybody else. The point of these days between Pesach and Shavuos is exactly not that way. It's for a person to count every day and to realize every day is a new day. Every moment's a new moment. Sefirat Omer is a time period that we're counting the days, 1, 2, 3. What have we done today that we weren't yesterday? I want to focus, Be'ez Hashem, on so many points, particularly 2 points. 2 points that I feel can help us very much in this inyan of Shaloi Nagu Kavod Zeh Lezeh. What can we do? How can we behave better? How can we improve ourselves when it comes to this? Rav Pam Zatzal said a wonderful pshat in the Gemara. Rav Pam said there's a Gemara in Baba Kama that says as follows. Says the Gemara, if you go over to a lady and you give her a gold coin to watch, you say, do me a favor, please watch this gold coin for me. But you don't tell her it's a gold coin. You don't want her to know, I don't know. You tell her it's a silver coin. Right? It's a gold coin, you wrap it up, and you give it to her to watch, and you tell her it's a silver coin, worth a lot less than a gold coin. She damages it. Says the Gemara, how much does she have to pay? A gold coin or a silver coin? So the Gemara says very simple, she has to pay a gold coin. But it was only, she was told a silver coin. She was told she's watching a silver coin. Why does she have to pay? So Rav Pam Zatzal said a wonderful, wonderful thing. He said as follows. He said, because true, she was told it's a silver coin, and that's what she accepted upon herself. But there's no such thing as a claim of, I didn't know how expensive it was. Says Rav Pam, this teaches us something unbelievable. A person in our relationship with other people can never turn around and say, well, I didn't know how important he was. If I would have known who he was, I never would have said that. Right? We have this situation sometimes. You're talking to someone, you're not nice to the person, and all of a sudden, you realize who he is, and he's become this amazing person in your eyes. If I would have known it was you, I'm so sorry. I never would have spoke to you like this. I never would have acted this way to you. No. As of Palm, we can't do that. Because every human being, every Jewish person, every individual is choshev. And we have to treat them that way. And we'll never have a claim of, I didn't know how important he was. No such thing. There's no such claim, no taina. A person has to treat everybody with respect. So one of the points which I really want to mention out of 2 points, which I feel we can really gain from, is the following. Point number 1, I was learning on the aeroplane on the way here to America from Eretz Yisrael. I was learning the Mishnayos of Sanhedrin. And there's a Mishnah in Perek Vav that says as follows. The Mishnah says that any person that gets skila has to be hung. That's the halacha, that's the Mishnah. He has to get hung, which means a person on Shabbos, he has a vegetable salad, and he decides to take out the tomato from the cucumber salad because he doesn't like tomatoes, so there you go. Chayu skila. Says the Mishnah, 1 second, not only do you give him a skila, but you have to hang him also. You can't just pelt him with stones and kill him, you got to hang him. But the Mishnah says a very interesting thing. You have to take him down before Shkia. Before sundown, make sure that he is down, he's no longer there. What's the reason? So the Mefarshim explain, the Mishnah Sana says, but the Mefarshim explain, Tselem Elokim. Every human being was created with Tselem Elokim, in an image of God. If that's true, it's a chilul Hashem, it's not right to have a human being, somebody that was created in the image of Hashem, hanging after night for an extended period of time. Now, what does that mean, it's Tselem Elokim? And I believe that if we get this down, and we understand this, and we internalize this, it will help our relationship with everyone, with whoever we deal with on a daily basis. What is Tselem Elokim? So I heard once a very interesting thing, that a mashal. What's a mashal? A mashal is, if I want to tell you something, if I want to explain something to you, what do? I tell you a mashal. I tell you a story that sort of, relates to what I'm saying, and through the story, you'll pretty much understand the point that I'm trying to make. That's a mashal. So they say the same thing over here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted in the world to put a mashal ki'ilu or kaviyachol of himself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to paint a picture of himself in this world in a mashal form. How do you do that? The human being. The human being is a mashal. It's an illustration of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you put that into your head, if you understand that, if you internalize that when you deal with somebody else, you're not just dealing with a person. You're dealing with a Tselem Elokim. You're dealing with someone that was actually created in the image of God. God put this person in the world as a mashal of himself. Now that's a very serious thing. And I can tell you so many stories. Let me give you a couple of stories from the Gedolim. The Gedolim, the Tzaddikim that really understood this. They took this to heart. Rav Dessler, who was originally a big mashgiach in England and came over to Eretz Yisrael afterwards, Michtav Melior, Rav Dessler. So he would, very interesting, he would never ever press the stop button in a bus. Right, you have on a bus, you have a bus and you press stop. Right, that's all, you press stop. And the bus driver knows to stop. And he would never press it. He would wait for somebody else to press it, or somebody else that's leaving, and would go for that person. So they asked Rav Dessler, they said, Rebbe, you sometimes have to wait many stops until you get off, and then you have to walk back to it. Why don't you just press stop? He said, very simple. Everybody's busy. This one's busy running to yeshiva, he's running to kollel, he's running to work. Everybody's busy in their lives. Everyone's got places where to go. I should stop everybody because I have to get off here. They should be delayed because I have to get off. No, it doesn't work that way. It's an unbelievable thing. It means that Rav Dessler understood what it means another person. The respect for somebody else was unbelievable. When Rav Moshe Zatzal, Rav Moshe Feinstein, when he was nifta, so his son received a phone call on that Erev Shabbos. And it was an old lady who called up and he said, Rabbi, can I ask you, what is the time for Hadlokas HaNeros? So, interesting question to get. A rabbi's answering many questions during the day, but what time is Hadlokas HaNeros? He says, hold on a minute, I'll look on the calendar. He looks up, he tells her the time. Okay. Next Erev Shabbos, she calls up and says, same question. Rabbi, when is Hadlokas HaNeros? Okay, he answers again. After 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, he's realizing he's getting this phone call every single Erev Shabbos. He says, I don't want to be disrespectful or anything, but maybe you want to buy yourself a calendar and you can just look up on the calendar when Erev Shabbos is. And when I look at there were. So she says, Rabbi, I'm sorry, but I was calling your father, Reb Moshe, for years and years and years. Every single Erev Shabbos. He never told me to do this. He never told me to get a calendar. And his son realized, wow, look what his father did. The father had the whole shoulder of Klal Yisrael on him. It was bigger than Reb Moshe, the decision that Reb Moshe made. Siamese twins. You can't imagine. But yet, he had the time and patience for a person that needed to know when is Adlokas HaNeros. Because he understood what means another person. He understood what it means, the respect of somebody. The respect of our fellow Jew is a tremendous, tremendous thing. It's something that we have to realize. I'll tell you a ma'aseh that happened to me. A fellow comes knocking on the door on a Friday night. It was during my Suda, it was during the meal. And often knocks on the door and during the meal, different questions and whatever. So this fellow was panting and puffing. It was difficult for him. He had walked 20 minutes from his house to my house, then up the 7 flights of stairs to me as well. It was unbelievable. So what was the story? The story was that the power went out Erev Shabbos, and there was no power in the house. Right? The place was dark, there was no electricity, nothing. And on Shabbos, unfortunately, sometimes it happens that a Jewish person, a non-frum person, not religious person, came over to the house, to the apartment building, and he fixed the electricity. So on Shabbos, it was switched on by a Jewish person. Now, he had food on the hot plate and on the crock pot and whatever, and he wanted to know, what am I going to do now? Am I allowed to eat it or not? So he comes up and he's, am I allowed to eat the food or not? I said, it's unbelievable. Like, you came all the way, you came all the way. You have to remember, and not just did he walk 15 minutes to get to my house and then 7 flights up the stairs, but it was raining, it was cold, it was windy, it was dark. What are you doing it for? And it's interesting, because he actually called me before Shabbos, because he knew this might happen. He asked me before Shabbos, tell me, is it okay? Anyway, so I said, you came all the way for this? He said, no, I knew it was okay, because I'd asked you before Shabbos. But I have a neighbor, a lady who lives by herself, and she was very nervous. Am I allowed? Am I not allowed? Maybe yeah, maybe no. He said, I wanted to put her at ease. I wanted to make her feel it's okay. I asked the rabbi the question, and he said it's okay. And therefore now she'll feel better. It's unbelievable. That means we have a normal person, right? I give you stories of Gedolim and Tzaddikim. You'll say, all right, these are Tzaddikim, the Gedolim. What's it going to do with me? Here's a normal Choshev, a great person. But look at the lengths he went to make sure that someone would feel good, that someone would be happy, that someone would be at ease. It's an amazing, amazing thing. Rabbi Zalman Meltzer, who was a Rosh Yeshiva for 60 years, almost 60 years at Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Zalman Meltzer. One afternoon, they watched. He came to his house, and he walked up the stairs of his house, and then all of a sudden he turned around and walked back down. And the people who were watching him, maybe his Talmidim, whatever, they were looking and said, Rebbe, what's the matter? They saw him pacing up and down in the front of his house. And they knew Rabbi Zalman, every moment that he had was so precious. There was no wasting time. And yet, he went up, down, and pacing up and down in front of, what, are you waiting for someone, Rebbe? What's going on? He said, no, I'm not waiting for anybody. So what are you doing here? He said, very simple. There's a cleaner in the house right now, a lady. And I went up the stairs, and I realized and I heard that she's singing. And she's cleaning, and she needs to sing in order to, keep it going. So I realized if I walk inside, so she's going to be very embarrassed. You imagine the God Lador, Mrs. Alma walks in your middle of singing. She'll be terribly embarrassed. And she'll probably stop singing as well. I didn't want to deny her, her singing and to be embarrassed. This is how Gedolim thought. This is what Tzaddikim realized, the effect of what we can do to other people. We can build somebody up, we can embarrass them, we can push them down. It's all up to us. But we have to realize it. Tell you another unbelievable ma'aseh with Rabbi Zalman Meltzer. Just a tremendous one. Rabbi Zalman Meltzer was learning with his chavrusa late at night. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. And the place was quiet, the town was quiet. And Rabbi Zalman was sitting learning with his chavrusa, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. 1 o'clock in the morning, a knock on the door. Who could want, a big shaila, something terrible, so real emergency. So they open the door, and it's a young boy. Says Rabbi Zalman, Rebbe, I need the God Lador's advice. I have a private shaila. She said, no problem. Goes into the private study with this fellow. His chavrusa is waiting there, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. What shaila is going on over here? So he figures maybe, I don't know, maybe he fell asleep, so it's 2 o'clock in the morning almost. So he sort of opens the door of the study in a small way, and he sees Rabbi Zalman is sitting there in his chair with his hands, holding his head backwards and forwards, thinking. He says, Rebbe, can I help? Don't disturb. What type of shaila is this? Another half an hour later, the Chavrusa knocks on the study door. He sees Rabbi Zalman on the floor, tossing and turning this way, that way, thinking. He says, Rebbe, please, I've never seen you like this. What is it? What's the shayla? Can I look up a sefer for you? Can I help you? Please? He says, no, don't disturb now. After another half an hour, it's where we're holding 3, 4 in the morning, whatever it is. The Rabbi Zalman comes out with a young boy. He pats him on his back, he shakes his hand, the young boy goes his way, and Rabbi Zalman comes back to his chavrusa, says, let's continue learning. And the fellow's like, Rebbe, please, what was the shayla? What was it that was so difficult? Rabbi Zalman had it said, the Klal Yisrael on his shoulders. Every decision, every godel came to Rabbi Zalman. And yet this was a shayla, an hour and a half. What could it be? So I'll tell you. This boy had just got engaged to a girl. And they found out that the girl was diagnosed with terrible, terrible disease, Rahman al-Islam. And the boy came to me to ask the shayla, should he break the shidduch or not break the shidduch? And it's such a serious shayla to embarrass somebody. Can you imagine the shame that this girl will go through? Who said she'll ever get married again? What a terrible shame. To shame another Jewish person is the worst thing that a person can do. And that took Rabbi Zalman's time, because he understood and he appreciated what means a Jewish person. What means to embarrass someone. What it means, not to give respect and cover to other people. He really, really understood it. There was a Ma'aseh in Yerushalayim a number of years ago with a 50th wedding anniversary of a couple, and they were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. What a joyous, wonderful occasion. All the children were there, the grandchildren, people flew in from other countries to enjoy and to, have a wonderful, wonderful simcha. And at one point, it came to the time where someone was going to make a speech, and the grandchildren turned to the grandfather and said, Grandpa, tell us, how did you meet Grandma? Which restaurant did you go to? Which hotel? How many drinks? What suit were you wearing? How many dates? How did it work? How did you meet Grandma? So he said, very simple. I'll tell you how I met Grandma. I met her at the chuppah. I met her at the wedding day. So I think that's it. What do you mean? You didn't have time to buy a new suit. You didn't do, how could you do that? So I'll tell you the story, very simple. There was a girl who was engaged who was coming to the chasana. It was the day of the chasana, it was the day of the wedding. And she comes there, wedding dress, preparations, suda, food, music, everybody is excited, it's happening, it's a real thing. They can't find the chosen. They just couldn't find the chosen. Where'd the chosen go? He was meant to be here, he was here, wasn't he? They couldn't find him. 2 hours later, they realized it's all over. He's run away. Cold feet. It's over. What can we do? So who was there at the time? Rabbi Wiesenfeld, the Rav of Yerushalayim, was there at the time. It's a tremendous thing. And he realized that Tsar, to tell this girl, I'm sorry to tell you, but your chosen, your future husband, is just not here. He's run away. Can you imagine the embarrassment, the shame of a kala who has to go home afterwards and say, what a shame, it didn't work out? So Wiesenfeld got up in front of all the men and he said, Rabbi Isai, who wants to be guaranteed to have good children? I'm guaranteeing you right now with a promise that you will have a child, you will have a family that will all be shomer Torah and mitzvahs. They'll give you nachas and everything. And everybody's sitting there saying, wow, what a promise from the Rav of Yerushalayim at Tzaddik, Reb Sonnenfeld, to give such a promise. How can you give up on that? So the grandpa says, I stood up and I said, I'll do it. I'm willing to do it to save the embarrassment of this girl, this poor kala at her day of her chuppah, to save the embarrassment. I'll do it. And he was zoicha to get a bracha, and all future generations were from because of that. Why? Because he understood what it means not to embarrass somebody. He understood what it means to respect somebody else. That's point number one. Point number one. Point number two. Another point, give us an idea into how to help and how to become a better person and treating other people better. Approximately just over 200 years ago, the residents of Vienna were treated to the most amazing spectacle. It was just an amazing situation. It was the first time a train was ever going to go. They were witness to the first time a train was ever going to move. And this big train is standing there on the tracks, right? They've never seen a train move in their life. And the crowd is there. Everybody's waiting in anticipation. What an exciting moment. We're making history. We are going to watch the train. And there's a pessimist who's, mingling through the crowd saying, do me a favor. This piece of metal is going to move without a horse carrying it, without a horse schlepping it along. It's impossible. Nah, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to move. Nothing's going to happen. And the crowd are still waiting. And all of a sudden, the train starts whistling. The noise is amazing. Everybody's waiting to see. Everybody's excited. And this pessimist is walking around saying, look, you see, it's just making a noise. That's all he can do. He can just make a noise. Can't do anything. It's not going to go anywhere. It's making a noise. And all of a sudden, the moment comes and the train starts to move slowly but surely and picks up speed. And the crowd are cheering and everyone's excited. And this fella's walking around saying, you see, it's going to move, but it's never going to stop. It's never going to stop. You know what the problem is? The problem is there are people out there that only see the bad. They never look at what the good. When we look at other people in our relationships with everyone, whether it be our wives, our chavrusas, our business partners, our friends, our family members, we often concentrate on the bad point that we find. And the point is we can't do that. We have to learn to look at the good. We have to look at other people and look at the good in them. And if you look in the good in other people, you'll respect them in a different way. I want to end with a couple of things. There's an unbelievable Ramban. The Ramban writes in Parshas Nosai, a famous Ramban. We know that Parshas Nosai is one of the biggest sedras that there is, the longest sedras in all of the Torah. And we know we have in the middle of Parshas Nosai all the psukim of the korbanos that the Nesiim brought. Each Nasi brought this and this. They all brought the same. It's very interesting. Right? It's again and again, repetition. And everybody's like, oh, come on, how long does it have to be? Why can't you just, I don't know, press, v'chule or something, just etc. One, just do one, the rest of them brought the same. So the Ramban says something so unbelievable. This is so unbelievable, says the Ramban. Because if we would do that, there would be a pagam in the respect. If you write one of them brought it and the rest also brought the same, so they would say, well, why did you put it by him and why not by me? The Torah, which we know every word is precious. The Gemara, we learn Gemara, every letter of the Torah has a cheshbon, has a calculation, why it's there, why it should be there, why, if it's not there, what's going on. There's a cheshbon, there's a calculation, there's not one extra word or letter in the Torah. And yet, says the Ramban, the Torah had to put in pasuk after pasuk after pasuk. Why? Because not to embarrass somebody. Not to make somebody feel bad. That's the reason, says the Ramban. It's a very, very amazing thing. One last thing. This Maisa, I've said it over so many times, but every time I say it, it's so exciting. It's such a Maisa that talks to us and can really change a person's relationship with other people. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, famous Maisa, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, Rosh Yeshiva of the Meir Yeshiva in Yerushalayim. So it was the time of Milchama, it was the time of the war. There were rockets, there were bombs flying all over the place. It was terrible, it was dangerous, it was very, very, very scary. And at one point, the Meir Yeshiva, all the Bochum in the Yeshiva were huddled together in the bomb room, right at the bottom of the Meir Yeshiva. And all the Bochum were there. This one was in his corner saying his Gemara. This one was in his corner saying Tehillim. This one was davening. Everyone had their avodah, what they were doing. It was a quiet moment. It was a very scary moment. It was the moment that they realized that at any moment they could be hit. And the moment came. There was a direct hit. A direct hit to the Meir Yeshiva. The place shook like never before. And then they waited. Because you all know that when you get a direct hit and it shakes, there's only a few seconds until the whole place collapses. And you never know what the outcome will be. And everyone at that moment of time was absorbed in his own avodah, in his work, what he could do at that moment to save his life. And it stopped. It shook, but it stopped. And everybody, wow, everybody breathed a sigh of relief that, wow, we were saved. We were saved. And they went back up to the Beis Medrash and they continued learning. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz Zatzal came over to the bima in the middle of the Beis Medrash and clapped on the bima. The whole place stopped. Silence. And Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says as follows. He said everybody was down there and each person in his avodah, and I'm not being mezalzel in anyone's avodah. And everyone's choshev and everyone's doing the right thing. But each one thought that his was the one that saved the Meir Yeshiva. This one thought his Gemara saved the Meir Yeshiva. This one thought his Tehillim saved the Meir Yeshiva. This one thought his davening saved. Each one, and I'm not chas v'shalom, maybe he was. And each one added to it without a question. Said Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, but I want to tell you what I think saved the Meir Yeshiva. Well, you know what it was? There was a woman. There was a woman also there at the time. Maybe she was the cook, maybe she was the cook, whatever it was. She was a woman that husband had left her years and years earlier. She wasn't able to get married again. She was stuck. Husband ran away, never gave her a get. She was never divorced, and she was stuck. So for years and years, this woman was stuck. The tsar, the anguish, the pain of a woman that cannot get remarried, that's in limbo, that's stuck. We can't imagine. Said Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, a powerful thing. That at that moment of time where the Meir Yeshiva got a direct hit, I heard that woman. And I heard what she said. And you know what she said? She said, I'm willing to give up and be moichel my husband for all the tsar that he gave me. I'm willing to give it all up. I'm being moichel believe shalom. Everything is forgiven. It's just save the Meir Yeshiva. Said Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, that's what saved the Meir Yeshiva. When a person can be mavater on someone else, when we all have differences, and we do have differences, we're human beings. But when we realize that every person is special, when we look at people in a good light, when we try and help other people and give them cover, give them respect, can you imagine what that can do? That's the time of Sefirat Omer. It's this time of Sefirat Omer that we have to work on this. I just want to mention one last amazing thing I heard this years ago. I don't remember who from. In January 15, 2009, when the US Airlines flight 1549, when it took off, so a swarm of birds got sucked into the engine, and it caused a tremendous sakana. The engine stalled at the time, and the captain radioed to the tower and said, I don't know what to do, we need to make a crash landing now. We've got to land now. The problem was that underneath them was Manhattan, and there were millions of people that could have been affected by that. What does he do? So he didn't know what to do, can't make it back to the airport below, he's got millions of people in Manhattan. What's he going to do? To go to a field will probably kill all the people on board. So he had to make a decision. In a split second, he made a decision to land on the Hudson River. Now, to land on a river is not simple. The nose of the plane has to be a certain height. The wings have to be perfect. Years ago, there was someone that tried it. The whole plane collapsed. The whole engine blew up and killed everybody on flight. But in a split second, the captain decided to make the decision, I'm landing on there. And with a calmness, as if he's done it 150 times, the captain announced, Rabbi Avi, brace. We're making an emergency landing, and everybody braced, and with perfect precision, he landed on the river and everybody was saved. And afterwards, he came out as a hero, and they interviewed him, and they said, how'd you do that? What happened? How'd you make that decision in that time, in that pressure, in that stress? And he said, very simple. When I was younger, he lost his father, and he remembers the pain, the sadness of being alone, of not having a father. And he said, at that moment of time when I realized how much danger we were in, I thought about the people on board. I thought about the parents on board, that their kids are waiting for them to come home. And it was that gave me the chizuk, that gave me the strength to do what I did, because he thought about somebody else. Not all is about yourself. That's exactly Sefirat Omer. The lesson of Sefirat Omer is every day we're counting. It's day 1, day 2, day 3, because every day we're meant to improve ourselves and become better today than we were yesterday. The lesson of Sefirat Omer is to teach us, let's remember that. Let's work on ourselves. Let's work on our relationship with other people. And if we do that, then Be'ez Hashem, when we come to Shavuos, we come to Matan Torah, we come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, here I'm giving you the Torah, will be a kli, will be a vessel that will be able to accept the Torah. And Be'ez Hashem, we have Siyata Dishmaya, the Rebbeinu Shalom should give us Siyata Dishmaya, and with all our work, Be'ez Hashem, we'll work on our relationship with other people, and should be zocheh to have a wonderful Kabbalah Satorah. Thank you for listening.